Hey everybody, I wanted to make this video about our formative assessments in math class, just so there would be no questions, we could clear up all misunderstandings, and everyone could kind of have one place to go to watch a video and kind of see the steps in the process. The process is the same regardless of whether it's algebra or AAT. Obviously, the content, the work we're going to do is going to change. I'm going to use an algebra formative assessment here in this video initially. But the process is the same regardless. If you want to get full credit on a formative assessment, there are essentially 3 steps that you have to do to earn that full credit grade. The first step is to do legitimate work, a legitimate effort on each problem of the formative assessment. So if you're using your pen for screenwriting, all right, you would take your pencil and, you would take your pencil and you would do the work to, in this situation, solve these problems. All right, so we've got our work done. This would get me 1 point of credit on the formative assessment. I have given a legitimate attempt at each problem. At this point, the expectation would be for you to check the answer key to know whether you did the problems right or not. You really can't self-grade and have confidence you know you're doing the problems right unless you are actually checking your work and checking the answer key to make sure you know you did them right. So once we've established that we did our problems right or incorrect, now comes the second part of the process that I'm grading, which is the self-grading. Now, we're going to be using the readiness rubric that is in Schoology and the class information folder, which I have shown you a number of times in class. And I am going to be grading myself on a 3, 2, 1, 0 scale in terms of my confidence and my readiness if I saw the same exact problem on an actual test or a quiz. So as I look at number 1 and I look at the work I did here, this problem made sense to me. I checked the answer key. I got the right answer. I'm good. All right. I'm going to give myself a 3, which again means if I saw a problem like number 1 on a test or a quiz, boom, dominated. 2, let's just say I didn't get the right answer. I think it actually is correct. Let's say I didn't get the right answer and I was a little confused on it. I know I understand a little bit of the problem, but I'm still not understanding everything. I'm going to give myself a 1. I'm kind of 50-50. I'll get some credit in a test, but I'm certainly not going to get it right. Now, number 2, I almost feel good about it. I even got the right answer, but I'm still just a little unsure of myself. I think I understand it. I did get it right, but I want a little more practice. I want to do at least one more problem to really lock it in and feel good about it. Now, the last problem here, you can see this one had a lot of stuff, had a lot of things. I ended up with a fraction. I don't really like a fraction as an answer. So I'm really kind of unconfident. That's not a word probably, but I'm not confident on this. So I'm going to give myself a 1. Notice I did not, let me undo that. Notice I did not use any decimals for individual grades. If you are giving yourself a grade on an individual problem, you have to pick a whole number, 3, 2, 1, or 0. At this point, you have now earned another half point. The individual grading of each problem is kind of a half point in terms of getting full credit here. So now on to the third part of this process. To finish it off and get full credit, what we need to do is you need to average the scores you got and put that average, which can be a decimal, in this case it will be a decimal, at the top. So I have a 3, a 1, a 2, and a 1. If I add that up, I get a total of 7. So I'm going to go to the top, and when we average numbers, we add the numbers up and then divide by how many there are. So I had a total of 7 points. There were 4 questions or 4 numbers that I added up. So 7 divided by 4 will give me an overall average readiness grade or confidence grade of 1.75. Now, if that were really my average, I would probably look at that and say, you know what, I need to do a little more practice. I know some things. There's definitely some things I can do well, but there are definitely some things I need to go back and look at. If you're more in the 2 range, closer to 3, you're probably pretty solid and might not need to do much practice, if at all, to be ready for a test or a quiz. But this is the process here that we kind of expect you to work through in terms of getting full credit on a formative assessment. It should look like this. I should see the work for each problem. I should see an individual grade for each problem. And then I should see the average of those grades up on top. If after watching this video, you still have more questions, please, please, please send me an email. Come to my office hours. Talk to me. I am going to hold you accountable to following this, and you will not get full credit if you're not doing these things. I don't want you losing very easy points just because you're still confused about the process. Well, hopefully this helped, guys, and I'll see you in class. Sorry, guys, I forgot to add one thing about grading the formative assessments. Please remember that you can earn full credit on the formative assessment even if I have already put grades in PowerSchool and you haven't yet earned that full credit. Please just make sure that you fix your work in ClassKick right on the same formative assessment, and then use the hand raise feature to ask for a check to let me know that you would like to regrade it. Also, please make sure to stay tuned for the bonus content about using your camera to input your work if you are going to be using that feature. So let's talk about taking a picture with the camera on your device and putting that directly into ClassKick really quick. I know for some of you who do not have a device-specific stylus, this is definitely the best way to do it. Now, I did make a video about how to do this, filming it from a camera outside the computer so you can see physically how to do it. But let me show you what it should look like on the screen in your video. So when we come across this first problem here, number one, we need to answer 6 different essentially questions identifying domain, range, increasing, decreasing, end behavior, and whether this is symmetrical. So I'm going to get a piece of paper out. I am going to write on my piece of paper, which I have now done. It'll probably take you a little bit longer. I did it ahead of time. And then I'm going to click Add an Image. And I'm going to upload from my camera. All right. What I would recommend is to lay your device flat so that your camera is looking up at the ceiling. And then I would hold that as best as possible and click Capture. All right. Now this picture is going to come in. Notice it's got everything there that was asked in the problem. I'm just going to size it down so that it can fit right there. And that's fine. It is totally fine to cover up words or things as long as you have written them on the page. Now, if you didn't actually write domain and range, it might be good to maybe size it a little bit less and put it here next to it if you want to, so you can still see everything there. But I can clearly tell that if a student was doing this, I can see what their answer is for domain and range, increase and decrease in end behavior and symmetry. Notice I also did not just take one big picture of the page and put that over the entire formative. Again, for individual problems, we need individual pictures. All right, so let's look at number 2 here. All right, so I did my work on my piece of paper. Again, I'm going to take a picture with my camera. I flatten out my screen. I'm going to hold up my work for number 2 here and hit Capture. Okay, now I've got my picture. I've got my asymptotes. I got the domain and range. And just in case you're wondering, I intentionally did not do all of these problems correctly so that we could, if you were looking at them, you could compare to the answer key and self-grade there. But now I've got an answer for number 2. And last but not least, let's do number 3. So I'm holding my picture for number 3 right there and Capture. And now I have earned myself at least 1 point on this formative because I did all of the work, showed all of the work that I needed to show. There's not a lot of actual work to show, but I answered every question and then put that in the space that was provided. Guys, that is totally fine to show me work, to give me answers. But again, it needs to be an individual picture for each problem. And you need to size the picture so that it fits in the space that was provided to do the work. Please do not cover up problem numbers. Please don't cover up directions. That's going to make my life very difficult in grading and might make it impossible for me to grade when it comes to an actual unit test or quiz. And on these formatives, it's going to make it really hard for you to do the self-grading if you're not answering these questions each individually.